The reason why going rural is important is because the majority of the population of the countries that we work in are living in rural communities. As we speak right now, many of them do not have access to financial services. And the best way to give them access to financial services is to expand access points. In a country like Tanzania, 42.5% of the population is within 5 kilometers of the financial access points. So in order to increase the financial inclusion, you need to increase the percentage of population that is within proximity of an access points. And some of the initiatives that we're doing in the focus countries that we're working in is working with some of the mobile network operators and some of the stakeholders in driving expansion of agent and financial access points in those rural communities.
Thanks to Microlead, we're partnering with NBS Bank in Malawi to develop a savings initiative and agency banking channel to help serve rural women. It's very important to go rural, particularly in a country like Malawi, because the gap in access to financial services is greatest there. The gap in financial inclusion is largest for people in rural areas and for women. And the main barriers that they face are both distance and emotional gap, and having access to products that are adequately designed to meet their needs. The key points in our strategy for NBS Bank have really focused on delivering a savings product that will be accessible for them. That means that we have sales force that go to the rural areas to open accounts for low-income people using minimal KYC requirements and identification, and making it very affordable, and then also providing a distribution channel where they can go and transact in their own communities or in trading centers where they travel regularly.
We developed a few products and refined the existing ones. One of the key products that came out from this project was the group savings account, where we go out and look for groups that are existing, already established with structures that are formal, and bank them. These are groups which are saving into their boxes. They collect every week, they save in a box, and they also lend to the members. So at the end of the cycle, they bring back to the box, and then they are able to share out what they have saved during the period. The second concept that came out from the project was the mobile banking platform, which we have branded AirSave. This is where customers are able to access their savings accounts as and when they need it. All they need is a mobile phone.
You find that most of our people living in the rural areas for quite a long time have been spectators in our own economies in this part of Africa. Then we can't keep them in that state for quite a long. If Africa is to develop, we still need to move those people to move with the rest of the people in their own economies. Most of the people living in the rural areas, the less privileged, are women. And if we take this service to the rural areas, we are actually taking the women to be players in their own economies, not just mere spectators.
I think that it's very important to go digital with financial services because it's going to bridge the gap, the infrastructural challenges that we have in getting to financial services to the rural areas. And it's also going to bring down the cost of accessing financial services by the rural population. And I think that one of the ways that we can use in going there is through mobile services as well as points of sales. Points of sales is very important also because it brings confidence. People in the rural area are confident in dealing with one of their own in carrying out these financial services.
Well, in all of the countries where we work, which the majority of them are least developed countries, the majority of the population lives in rural areas, and they don't have any access to financial services. And we feel and we know that financial services is one of the strongest impetuses behind economic growth. And we also feel in the Microlead program that savings for the poor is what will help the poor to weather the shocks and be able to invest when they need to, but weather shocks when things turn bad, as opposed to accessing credit. With the advent of mobile phones and mobile technology, there's mobile money now available almost everywhere in Africa, and this allows people to access, to cash in and cash out, as well as sometimes even link into bank accounts via electronic means, via mobile phones.
Rural because most of the countries that are on this program are mostly rural. In Ghana, for instance, we have more than 65% of people based in the rural areas, and so it is critical that financial service reach to these people.
Access to financial services in rural areas remains very scarce in Ghana. The Bank of Ghana statistics shows that only 6% of Ghana's population have access to or have bank accounts. The same statistics show that about 50% of the population have mobile phone accounts or have mobile phones. This tells us that mobile phone can be a very useful tool to give access to the rural population.
I think Myanmar has a big country with 60 million people. So almost 70% are covered by mobile phone, but they are not getting the fruits of mobile phones. So I think it is very cheaper if we can reach the rural areas with mobile network and mobile services. It will be a great revolution for Myanmar and for the poor people of the rural areas.
Because we'd like to reach a larger number of customers who are currently or underbanked and don't have access to financial services. How? Well, we've learned that agency banking is a key part of that, to bring the bank closer to the customer who feels that they're either, too far away from a bank in terms of distance and money, and also psychologically far away from a bank in terms of their feeling that a bank may not be for them.
We should go rural because when we look at inclusive development or inclusive finance, basically the majority of those who are not yet served by the formal economy are based in rural areas. And at the same time, you cannot ignore, especially in African countries, the large majority of farmers who actually feed the urban growing population. So if you want to avail resources to them, you need to go rural. Going rural is very challenging because you have lack of infrastructure, you have basically lack of telecommunication and facilities. So you need to look at how can you reduce the transaction costs and also serve the rural customers in the most effective way. So you need to think about digital if you want to think rural.
Over 75% of the world's rural population is financially excluded, which means that they don't have access to tools or services that help them put money aside for savings or protect them against risks with microinsurance. So that's a huge gap, and this is where the MasterCard Foundation feels that we can make a difference.
We should go rural because extending financial services to rural areas has great potential for poverty alleviation. Giving unbanked persons in rural areas access to financial services opens the way for them to access other needed services such as health, such as insurance, such as energy, and a host of others. As well, rural unbanked persons open a whole new market for commercial institutions like ours. Going rural, especially for commercial institutions like ours, involves a lot of partnerships. Going cold on our own is going to be difficult, but going arm in arm with international institutions like CARE International or UNCDF or GIZ or SNV or whoever you're working with opens the doors for you to actually have people who have been aggregated and prepared to receive the financial services that you'll be offering.
In my country, Ghana, most of the economic activities are in agriculture, and agricultural workers are mostly in the rural areas where there are no banks. There is a need for financial services for these people. For this reason, it is necessary to take digital financial services to the rural people. The way by which we can do that is to create agency models, since the banks are not available, so that with the use of technology, people can be linked to accounts using either mobile money or smart cards or any other means by which they can do their banking services.
Most of the people, the marginalized one, especially women and youth, are living in the rurals. And those people have not access to the form of financial services. Does that matter? The digital should go to the rural to make sure those people access those financial services. For example, to prepare a product which matches with the rural peoples, and also extend using the agencies to make sure that the rural people are accessing those financial services. Apart from that, the crucial issue is, are the products which prepared met the need or demand of the rural people? That should be very important.
We have been working with Microlead to attract deposits by leveraging technology, particularly handheld technology from rural areas. And the purpose for the technology is combined with saving is in order to serve village. Most of these villages cannot come to bank or to our branch, so we wanted to go to them. And by using this technology, we are collecting deposits at village and at doorstep of the villagers.
Most of the clients that we are targeting, they're actually in the rural areas and they have no financial services providers. We don't have banks in the rural areas.